Hello dear students, today we are going to discuss types of fruit. In this lecture we are discussing these aspects of fruits. Firstly, we'll define what is a fruit. Second, diversity in fruits, classification of fruits, and lastly, economic importance of fruits. What is a fruit? A fruit is a matured ovary or ovaries of flowering plants plus any fused associated accessory part. It comprises of a fruit wall which normally encloses one or more seeds. The fruit wall is derived from the mature ovary wall and is known as pericarp or rind. The pericarp may be dry, hard or fleshy. In fleshy fruits, it may be divisible into three layers: the outer exocarp, middle mesocarp and the inner endocarp. Sometimes there are only two layers, the exocarp and the endocarp. Some fruits, however, may develop without seed formation. Such fruits are called parthenocarpic fruits, example cultivars of bananas. A fruit in which additional parts are retained is known as accessory fruit. The accessory structures associated with the fruit may include parts of the flower other than matured gynoecium and even associated vegetative structures. Accessory parts are organs attached to a fruit but not derived directly from the ovary or ovaries, including the bracts, axes, receptacle, compound receptacle, hypanthium or perianth. Examples of accessory structures include expanded fleshy receptacle of Fragaria species, the fleshy perianth of Coccoloba species, the wing-like calyx of Dipterocarpus species, and the fleshy inflorescence axis of Ficus species. Diversity in fruits. There is a great diversity in size, form, texture, means of opening and anatomy among fruits. As a result of this, many different types of fruits have been recognized which are not so easy to classify. Plant taxonomists have long attempted to classify the bewildering variety of fruits, and some schemes of their grouping have been devised. All systems of classification of fruits, however, must be fraught with difficulties. This is because of the problems of perplexing and often continuous variation in fruit structure, extensive convergent evolution of fruiting structures, associated accessory parts forming a functional part of the fruit, and negligence of tropical fruits in many traditional fruit classifications. Due to the same reason, Van der Pijl has concluded that the fruit is too versatile and has too many aspects to be divided into stricter categories. Classification of fruits. S.R. Gray provided an artificial classification of fruit types. This system is based on the texture of pericarp, the pattern of fruit dehiscence, the shape and size of the fruit, and the carpal and ovule number of flower forming a fruit. Based on this traditional scheme, Judd et al. Provided a key to fruit types wherein they recognized simple fruits as those derived from a single flower, and multiple fruits as those derived from several flowers. The simple fruits were divided into two categories: those that develop from a single carpel or several fused carpels, and those that develop from several separate carpels of a single gynoecium. In aggregate and multiple fruits, the component derived from an individual pistil is called a unit fruit. Based on the development, fruits are generally classified as simple, aggregate, and multiple fruits. Each of these categories comprises several fruit types as discussed here. Simple fruits. A single fruit develops from a flower having a single carpel or several united carpels but with single ovary. In other words, a simple fruit develops from a single pistil of one flower. Simple fruits can be classified under three categories: indehiscent, dehiscent, and schizocarpic fruits. Indehiscent fruits. These are those simple fruits which do not split and open at maturity. The seeds remain in fruit after the fruit has been shed from the parent plant. This may be dry or fleshy. Dry indehiscent fruits. Such fruits have dry pericarp at maturity and are represented by achene. It's a single-seeded dry fruit developing from a single carpel with superior ovary. Fruit wall is free from the seed coat and attached to it at one point only, the helium. Example, unit fruits of Ranunculus species. Caryopsis. It's also known as grain and is one-seeded dry fruit developing from a monocarpellary ovary. The seed coat is adnate to pericarp wall, example cereals. Cypsela, a dry indehiscent achene type of fruit derived from a unilocular inferior ovary. It may sometimes be winged or spiny because the pappus, which is derived from calyx tissue, often remaining on the fruit. Example, Astraceae. Nut. It's a one-seeded, generally large fruit developing from a multicarpellary ovary and with a hard woody or bony pericarp. Example, Quercus species. Nutlet. A small nut-like fruit. The nutlet is a pyrene, which is a seed covered by a stony layer, such as the kernel of a drupe. Example, Mericarps in Boragnaceae and Lamiaceae. Samara. It's a fruit in which a flattered wing of fibrous papery tissue develops from the ovary wall. They are winged achenes, example, maples. Utricle is a small inflated or bladder-like one-seeded fruit. The pericarp is significantly larger than the mature seed, example, salt bush. Fleshy indehiscent fruits, also known as succulent fruits. These are those fruits which have fleshy and juicy pericarp at maturity. It is of various types such as berry. It's a fleshy fruit produced from a single ovary. The berry is the most common type of fleshy fruit in which the entire ovary wall ripens into an edible pericarp. There may have been one or more carpels with a thin covering and fleshy interiors. The seeds are usually embedded in the flesh of the ovary. Example, grapes, tomato. Drupe. A drupe is a fruit in which an outer flesh part surrounds a shell of hardened endocarp with a seed inside. These fruits develop from a single carpel and mostly from flowers with superior ovaries. Example, apricot, peach, plum, coconut, mango. A pome is a fleshy fruit with a cartilaginous endocarp derived from syncarpus inferior ovary, where the fleshy part is formed by thalamus and the cartilaginous endocarp is inside. Example, apple and pear. Amphisarca, a fleshy simple berry-like fruit with a woody rind. Example, Legionnaria species. Blastula, a simple, many-seeded and many-loculed indehiscent fruit with a tough pericarp. Example, pomegranate, pepo. It can be defined as a non-septate fleshy fruit with parietal placentation and a leathery exocarp derived from an inferior ovary. Example, fruit of Cucurbitaceae. Hesperdium is a septate fleshy fruit with a thick-skinned, leathery outer pericarp wall and fleshy modified trichomes arising from the inner walls and develops from polycarpellary superior ovary. Example, orange and lemon. Pseudodrupe. It's a nut surrounded by fleshy indehiscent involucres. Thus, this fruit has accessory tissue serving as the fleshy component. Example, walnut. Dehiscent fruits. These are those simple fruits which are generally dry and dehiscent at maturity and open by means of a valve. Generally, the pericarp of the mature ovary breaks open to free the seeds. Some of them open with force to eject their seeds. Examples of dehiscent fruits are: follicle is a dry, dehiscent fruit derived from monocarpellary superior ovary that splits along one suture. Example, unit fruit of Paeonia species. Legume. This is also known as pod. The fruit develops from a monocarpellary superior ovary that splits along two longitudinal sutures. Example, legumes. Siliqua or silique. It is a dry, dehiscent fruit derived from a bicarpellary ovary which is initially one-chambered, but subsequently becomes two-chambered due to formation of a false septum. The fruit dehisces along both sutures from the base upwards, valves separating from septum and the seeds remaining attached to the ruin. The fruit is narrower and longer, at least 3 times longer than broad. Example, Brassicaceae. Silicula or silicle. Fruit is similar to siliqua but shorter and broader, less than 3 times longer than broad. Example, shepherd's purse. Lomentum, modified legume which splits transversely into one-seeded or many-seeded segments. Example, Mimosa species. Capsule, the most common kind of the dehiscent fruits. Capsule is generally dry, rarely fleshy and developing from a compound ovary. 5 types of capsules can be recognized based on types of location of the dehiscence. Circumscissile capsule. It has a transverse line of dehiscence forming a terminal lid or operculum. Example, Plantago species. Poricidal capsule. Dehiscence through terminal pores. Example, poppy. Loculicidal capsule, dehiscence through longitudinal lines radially aligned with the locules. Example, Malvaceae. Septicidal capsule, dehiscence through longitudinal lines radially aligned with the septa, the valves remaining attached to septa. Example, Linon species. Septifragal capsule is one in which the valves break off from the septa or its splitting so that valves fall off, leaving seeds attached to the central axis. Example, Datura species. Schizocarpic fruits. A schizocarp is a dry fruit type derived from a two or more loculed compound ovary in which the locules separate at maturity. Some common examples of schizocarpic fruits are cremocarp, a fruit developing from a bicarpellary syncarpous inferior ovary and splitting into two one-seeded segments known as mericarps. Also known as schizocarpic of mericarps, the mericarps are attached by a common stalk, the carpophore. Example, Apiaceae. Schizocarp of nutlets, a fruit developing from a bicarpellary syncarpous superior ovary and splitting into two 4-1-seeded segments, or lobes known as nutlets. Example, Lamiaceae and Boraginaceae. Schizocarp of follicles, a fruit in which carpels of the pistil split at maturity into unit fruits. Example, milkweed. Regma, a fruit developing from a multicarpellary syncarpous ovary and splitting into one-seeded cocci. Example, Geranium species. Aggregate fruits. An aggregate fruit develops from two or more pistil ovaries of one flower, that is, from a number of separate carpels of one gynoecium. Each individual ovary forms a fruitlet. It's of the following types. Achenicetum. It is an aggregate fruit of achenes in which the achenes are on the surface of accessory tissue and enlarged fleshy receptacle. Example, Fragaria species. Drupacetum. It's an aggregate fruit of drupes. Example, raspberry or blackberry. Follicetum. It's an aggregate fruit of follicles. Example, species of magnolia. Syncarp. It's an aggregate fruit of berries in which unit fruits fuse together. Example, Annona species. Hip. The aggregation of achenes is surrounded by a cup-like hypanthium, forming a specialized accessory fruit known as hip. Example, rose. Multiple fruits is a fruit develops from the gynocia of more than one flower, that's two or more flowers, commonly the whole inflorescence coleus in its formation. It's of following type. Burr. It's a multiple fruit of achenes or grains surrounded by prickly involucri. Example, plane tree. Sorosis. It is a multiple fruit in which the unit fruits are fleshy berries and are laterally fused along a central axis. Example, pineapple. Syconium. It's a multiple fruit in which the unit fruits are small achenes covering the surface of a fleshy, inverted compound receptacle derived from a hypanthodium. Example, ficus species. Economic importance. Many fruits, including fleshy fruits such as apple, peach, pear, watermelon, are commonly used as human food, eaten both fresh and processed as jams, juices, etc. Fruits are also used in manufacturing foods like cookies, yogurt, ice creams, cakes, mango shakes, etc. Fruits are also used for gift giving. Example, fruit baskets. Many fruits are used to make beverages such as fruit juices or alcoholic drinks. Apples are often used to make vinegar. Many fruits are used as vegetables for daily use. Example, brinjal, tomato, bell pepper, squash and pumpkin, cucumber, green bananas, etc. Regular consumption of fruits has been found useful to increase immunity and will reduce risks of cancer, cardiovascular diseases, etc. Dry fruits like almonds, apricot, walnut, etc. are a rich source of calcium and are useful for the growth of bones. With this, we come to the end of today's lecture on the topic types of fruits. Hope you have enjoyed. Goodbye.